buckle up, everybody. We're going deep today.
Well, yeah.
Into the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive.
The CSRD.
The CSRD, that's right. And all the ways it's changing the insurance game.
It's pretty wild, really.
Well, I know, Directive doesn't sound like a thrill ride.
Right.
But trust me, this is big stuff.
Huge implications.
So help me out here. What makes the CSRD such a game changer?
Well, you know how the old non-financial reporting directive, the NFRD?
Yeah.
It kind of just dipped a toe in the sustainability pool, right?
Right. Just the biggest companies had to report.
Exactly. But the CSRD, it's like a cannonball. It's making a splash.
Cannonball.
A much wider range of companies have to report now, even some outside the EU.
So we're talking way more data for insurers to work with.
Mountains of it, and not just any data.
Oh.
The CSRD, it insists on third-party verification.
That's a big deal.
Huge for insurers. They're used to sifting through, patchy information.
Right, trying to piece things together.
Yeah. Now they're getting this reliable, standardized data on everything.
Everything.
Emissions, water usage, supply chains, you name it, even human rights issues.
Wow, that's a lot to process, even for a seasoned insurance problem.
You're not wrong.
Is the industry even ready for this data explosion?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
There are definitely some growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
Insurers need to, seriously ramp up their data infrastructure and analytics capabilities.
Make sense of it all.
Yeah, it's a flood of information.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the potential upside.
Okay, sure.
How is all this data actually changing the way insurers underwrite policies?
Okay, well, imagine you're trying to figure out a company's climate risk.
Right.
Before, you might have had a fuzzy picture of their emissions.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to the CSRD, you've got these standardized emissions reports.
Apples to apples.
Exactly. So you can see who's really serious about going green and reward them.
With lower premiums.
Exactly. Some studies even suggest this kind of data-driven underwriting could lead to, a 15% drop in climate-related claims.
15%? That's a massive incentive for companies to get their act together, sustainability-wise.
It is.
But wouldn't this, give an advantage to bigger companies? The ones who can afford to make those green investments?
Oh, absolutely. That's a real risk.
What about the smaller players just trying to stay afloat?
Yeah, there's a danger the CSRD could worsen existing inequalities for sure.
Right.
Policymakers in the industry need to figure out ways to support those smaller businesses on their sustainability journey.
Okay, so it's a balancing act, right?
Definitely.
Rewarding the leaders without leaving anyone behind.
Right.
But let's say an insurer has nailed the data part. How does all this granular detail play out in the real world?
Well, think about catastrophe modeling, right?
Okay.
Insurers use these models to predict hurricanes, floods, all that.
Right.
And now they have CSRD data on water usage, resource extraction, biodiversity.
So they can build better models.
Way more sophisticated, way more accurate.
I see. So they can price risk better and create new products.
Specifically for a changing climate.
It's like having a high-def map instead of a blurry satellite image.
Perfect analogy.
You can actually see what's happening on the ground.
Exactly.
But what about those hidden risks buried in global supply chains?
The unknown unknowns.
Yeah, the ones that can really blindside you.
Well, that's where the CSRD's focus on supply chain transparency comes in.
Okay.
Suddenly, insurers have this much clearer view of potential ESG risks hiding within a company's operations.
Stuff they might not have seen before.
Exactly. Things like child labor, deforestation, all those issues that might have been swept under the rug.
So they can finally account for those risks.
And more than that, they could even start building sustainability clauses into policies.
Interesting.
Requiring companies to show their ESG commitment or even offering incentives for positive change.
So insurers can use their leverage to push companies towards better practices.
Absolutely. It's a whole new dynamic.
It sounds like we're talking about a new breed of insurance products altogether. One's designed for this sustainability-focused world.
100%. This data is driving a wave of innovation.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, have you heard of parametric climate policies?
Parametric climate policies.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So instead of traditional insurance, where you have to prove a loss,
right,
these policies pay out automatically based on climate triggers.
Triggers.
Like, let's say, a certain amount of rainfall or specific wind speed.
So if a company in a flood zone has one of these policies and there's a record rainfall event,
boom, payout, no questions asked.
It's like a weather-based safety net.
Exactly. totally tailored for a changing climate.
I'm fascinated by these. I want to see how they evolve.
Me too. It's a whole new frontier.
And then there's the whole D&O insurance landscape.
Oh, yeah.
Directors and officers insurance as companies are facing more scrutiny.
Over their sustainability claims, right?
Exactly. And the potential for lawsuits if they're not walking the walk.
Specialized D&O coverage with ESG endorsements is becoming essential.
So the CSRD, it's not just impacting big companies, it's trickling down to everyone.
It's a ripple effect.
Even if you're not on a company board, you might see its impact.
In the products you buy, the services you use.
Yeah, it's putting pressure on everyone to get their ESG act together.
The stakes are definitely higher.
The CSRD, it's like it's shining a spotlight on everyone's sustainability efforts.
No more hiding in the shadows.
And it's changing how insurers manage their own investments too, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're not just looking at financial metrics anymore.
They're using this new ESG data.
To make smarter, more sustainable investment decisions.
But insurers are businesses, aren't they? Their bottom line is still profit, right?
Right. But what we're seeing now is a growing understanding that sustainability and profit aren't enemies.
They can work together?
They can be allies, even.
Okay, I'm listening. How does making sustainable investments benefit an insurer's bottom line?
Well, first off, it helps them avoid those companies with, like, hidden ESG risks.
It's a ticking time bomb.
Exactly. The ones that could lead to, reputational damage or fines.
It's risk mitigation.
Smart risk mitigation.
But it's also about opportunity, right?
Yes. With this better ESG data, insurers can confidently shift their investments towards, like, green bonds, renewable energy projects.
Companies that are part of the solution.
Exactly. They're not just avoiding risk, they're actively seeking out sustainable investments.
The ones that align with their goals and could bring higher returns in a changing world.
It's a win-win.
So the CSRD is helping align financial interests with sustainability goals.
It's a powerful shift.
But isn't there a risk of companies trying to game the system? Making themselves look greener than they are?
Greenwashing. Oh, that's a constant concern.
Right.
And the CSRD, along with things like the EU taxonomy, are designed to make that harder.
The EU taxonomy, remind me what that is again? It's basically a system for defining what counts as environmentally sustainable.
It helps investors and insurers see if a company's claims actually hold water.
So it's like a BS detector for sustainability.
You could say that.
And it empowers consumers too, right?
Totally. They can compare insurers' sustainability performance.
And choose the ones that match their values.
That's the idea.
But does it actually change consumer behavior? Are people choosing insurers based on this stuff?
That's the question, isn't it? We know awareness is growing, and more people say they'd pay a premium for sustainable options.
But do they actually do it?
It's still early days, but it's a trend to watch for sure.
It's not enough to just make the information available.
No.
You have to connect it to people's values and their wallets.
100%.
Speaking of which, how does the CSRD fit in with all the other sustainability regulations out there? It seems like the EU is really pushing this agenda hard.
Oh, yeah, it's all part of a bigger plan.
To make sustainability a core part of the financial system.
Exactly. They've got the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, the SFDR.
The SFDR.
Yeah, which makes financial players be more transparent about their sustainability impacts. And then the EU taxonomy we were just talking about.
Right.
The CSRD is a key piece of the puzzle.
How so?
It provides this consistent ESG data that insurers can use to meet their reporting obligations under all these different rules.
So instead of juggling a bunch of different regulations,
Right.
they can use the CSRD as a foundation for their reporting.
Exactly. It streamlines the process.
And a good sustainability story can make a big difference for insurers, right?
It's huge, especially for attracting investors and building a good reputation.
Investors care about this stuff more and more.
They're looking for companies that are managing ESG risks and grabbing those sustainable opportunities.
So the CSRD, it's not just about avoiding risks.
It's about opening doors.
It's creating this cycle where sustainability drives business success.
That's the goal.
But it's bigger than that, isn't it?
What do you mean?
The CSRD, its impact goes beyond balance sheets and profits.
Oh, for sure.
It can reshape the insurance industry's role in society.
It already is.
How so?
Well, insurers, they're in the business of risk, right? They understand climate change, social inequality, all the big challenges.
They see the consequences firsthand.
Every day in rising claims, disrupted supply chains, instability.
So they're not just detached observers.
They're on the front lines.
And the CSRD arms them with even more data.
It does.
So they can help businesses and governments mitigate those risks
Exactly. It's about being proactive.
instead of just reacting after a disaster,
Precisely. It's a shift from reactive to preventive.
which ultimately benefits everyone.
In the long run, absolutely.
But that's a big change in mindset, isn't it?
For everyone, insurers and the companies they insure.
Are we talking about a complete overhaul of how the industry works?
It's a pretty significant shift.
How do you even begin to implement that?
Well, collaboration is key.
Okay.
Insurers can partner with experts in sustainability, climate science.
To build their own expertise.
Exactly. They can engage with policymakers, advocate for supportive regulations.
And work with their clients.
That's huge. Sharing knowledge, resources, helping everyone navigate this new world
So it's about creating a whole sustainable ecosystem.
where everyone's working together towards the same goal.
But let's be real, not everyone's going to be thrilled about all this.
Oh, of course not.
Some companies might see the CSRD as a burden, more red tape.
There will definitely be pushback.
So how do you convince the skeptics?
You have to highlight the benefits.
Not just the feel-good stuff.
Right. You have to show the hard numbers, the business case.
Sustainability can lead to reduced risks, more efficiency, better brand value.
Access to new markets, a stronger bottom line.
It's about making sustainability make sense for businesses.
We're making it a win-win for everyone.
But even with the best intentions, there will be bumps in the road.
Always are.
What are some of the biggest challenges for insurers as they try to implement all this?
Well, we've talked about the data overload and the talent gap,
Right.
but there's also the challenge of measuring and reporting on those complex social issues.
Things like human rights, supply chain transparency.
Exactly. It's a lot harder than tracking emissions.
So it's harder to compare companies on those issues.
Much harder.
And then there's data security and privacy, right?
Huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
As insurers gather more data,
They have to make sure it's handled responsibly.
it's a big responsibility.
It seems like every solution brings new challenges
That's how it goes. But each challenge is also an opportunity.
for innovation.
Exactly. The insurers who can solve these data dilemmas, they'll be the ones who thrive.
It's a lot to think about. We've covered so much.
You have.
Data reporting, underwriting, investing, consumer behavior, the whole landscape.
It's a lot to unpack.
But I think the most important takeaway is that the CSRD isn't an endpoint.
It's beginning.
What do you mean?
I mean, this is just the start of a much bigger transformation.
A transformation of how we think about business
Exactly. Moving beyond just shareholder value.
to a broader definition of success.
One that includes social and environmental well-being.
So it's not just about making the insurance industry more sustainable.
It's about using its influence to drive change globally.
That's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is, but the insurance industry is in a unique position.
With its understanding of risk, its resources, its connections.
They have the potential to be a powerful force for good.
I have to say, I'm feeling a bit more optimistic after this deep dive.
That's good to hear.
It's easy to get bogged down in all the doom and gloom,
I know what you mean.
but seeing these solutions, the commitment to change, it gives me hope.
That's what I find so inspiring about this space.
The sense of urgency, the willingness to embrace change.
It's palpable.
So what's next? Where do we go from here?
Action. We need to turn these ideas into real solutions.
Solutions that have a real impact.
That's it.
And who better to lead the way than the insurance industry?
They are the risk experts, after all.
They know how to protect us from the unexpected.
That's their bread and butter.
So the CSRD isn't a burden, it's a call to action.
A call for the insurance industry to step up.
To be a catalyst for a more sustainable
A
future.
future that's resilient, equitable, thriving.
All right, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today.
We had?
The challenges, the opportunities, the potential of the CSRD.
It's a whole new world.
But before we go, I want to leave our listener with one final thought,
Okay.
something to chew on as they explore this topic further.
I like that.
The CSRD, it's more than just rules.
It's a guide.
A guide to a future where businesses, insurers, investors, everyone,
All work together.
to create a world where profit and purpose are aligned,
Where success isn't just about the bottom line.
but about our collective well-being and the health of our planet.
That's the future we're working towards. So you were asking about how to tell the real deal from, the greenwashing.
Right, with all this data flying around.
It's tricky.
It seems like it would be easy to cherry pick or spin a narrative.
Oh, absolutely. But the CSRD
Yeah.
and things like the EU taxonomy,
Mhm.
they help cut through that.
Okay, the EU taxonomy, now remind me.
It's basically like a classification system
Okay.
for what counts as truly sustainable.
Environmentally sustainable.
Yeah. So investors and insurers
Yeah.
can see if a company's claims actually,
Match up with the science.
exactly. It's like,
A decoder ring.
I like that. Yeah. A decoder ring for sustainability.
So you can see who's actually green and who's just faking it.
Spot on.
And it helps consumers too, right?
Oh, yeah, big time.
They can compare insurers
See who's walking the walk.
and choose the ones that match their values.
Exactly. Informed choices.
But does this actually change how people behave?
Meaning.
Do people really choose insurers based on their ESG performance?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
We know people are more aware of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
More and more say they'd pay more for sustainable options.
But talking the talk and walking the walk are two different things.
For sure. Closing that gap is the challenge.
So transparency is one piece of the puzzle. But how does the CSRD fit with all the other sustainability regulations? It seems like the EU is really pushing this on multiple fronts.
Oh, it's a multi-pronged approach.
A whole sustainability offensive.
You could say that. Yeah.
So you've got the CSRD,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned the EU taxonomy.
Yep, that's the decoder ring.
Right. And what else?
Well, there's the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation,
That's a mouthful.
the SFDR,
SFDR, got it.
which forces financial players to, come clean about their sustainability impacts.
So the CSRD is part of this bigger web of regulations.
A tapestry, you could say.
A tapestry of sustainability. I like it.
The CSRD, it provides the data that insurers need to comply with all these rules.
So it's like a foundation.
Exactly. A single source of truth.
It simplifies things.
Streamlines everything.
And it helps insurers tell a good story.
A credible story.
To regulators, to investors, to everyone.
It's all about transparency.
And a good sustainability story can be valuable, right?
Oh, incredibly valuable.
Especially for attracting investors.
Investors are paying attention to this stuff now.
ESG is a big deal.
They want companies that are managing these risks, capitalizing on the opportunities.
So strong ESG performance can be a real asset.
Boosts your creditworthiness, attracts responsible investments, enhances your brand.
It's not just about avoiding risks.
It's about creating value.
Sustainability can drive business success.
Absolutely.
But the CSRD, it's not just about balance sheets, is it?
It's about something bigger.
It can change how the whole industry interacts with society?
It already is.
Okay, I'm interested. How does it do that?
Well, think about it. Insurers,
Yeah.
they're all about understanding risk.
Right, that's their business.
They see climate change, social inequality, all those challenges
They see the impact.
firsthand in rising claims, disruptions, instability.
So they're not just sitting in some ivory tower.
They're in the trenches.
And the CSRD gives them more data
Better data.
to help businesses and governments address those risks.
It's about moving from reaction to prevention.
Being proactive,
Exactly. And that benefits everyone in the long run.
but that requires a pretty big shift in mindset, doesn't it?
It does, for insurers and the companies they insure.
How do you even start to implement a change like that?
Collaboration is key.
Okay, like what?
Insurers can partner with sustainability experts, climate scientists.
Bring in the specialists.
Exactly. They can talk to policymakers, push for better regulations,
And work with their clients.
share their knowledge, help them adapt,
Create a more sustainable ecosystem.
for everyone's working towards the same goal.
But let's be realistic, not everyone's gonna jump on board with this.
Oh, there will be resistance, for sure.
Some will see it as a burden, a compliance headache.
Change is hard.
So how do you convince the skeptics?
You show them the benefits.
Not just the warm fuzzies.
Right, the hard numbers, the bottom line.
How sustainability can reduce risks, increase efficiency, boost brand value,
Open up new markets.
make it a win-win for everyone.
Exactly, that's the key.
But even with the best intentions, there will be challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles insurers are facing with the CSRD?
Well, we've talked about the data deluge,
Right.
the talent gap.
Finding people with the right skills.
Exactly, but there's also the challenge of measuring those complex social issues.
Things like human rights, supply chain transparency.
Yeah, it's much harder than tracking emissions.
So it's harder to compare companies on those issues.
Much harder. It's still a work in progress.
And then there's data security and privacy.
Huge issue with all this data being collected.
Insurers have to handle it responsibly.
Absolutely, it's a big responsibility.
It seems like every solution brings new challenges.
It's the nature of the beast
But every challenge is also an opportunity.
to innovate, to find new solutions.
The insurers who can crack these data dilemmas?
They'll be the leaders.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. It's a complex landscape.
Data, regulations, challenges, opportunities.
And it's all evolving so quickly.
But I think you said it best earlier, the CSRD isn't the end.
It's the beginning.
This is just the start of a much bigger shift.
A shift in how we think about business, about success.
Moving beyond just shareholder value,
To a more holistic view.
one that includes people and the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating a world where everyone can thrive.
So it's not just about making the insurance industry more sustainable,
It's about using his power to drive positive change.
to create a better future for all of us.
That's the ultimate goal.
It really does make you rethink what success means.
Right. It's not just about profits anymore.
It's about the long game.
The big picture.
Exactly. Taking care of the planet, taking care of each other.
Creating a future we can all be proud of.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
The CSRD, the data, the challenges, the opportunities.
It's a whole new world out there.
But you mentioned earlier that the CSRD is just the starting point.
It is. It really is.
So what's next? What's the next chapter in this story?
Well, one of the most exciting things to watch is the tech side of things. Yeah, all the new tools that can help insurers make sense of this data.
Okay, like what?
AI, machine learning, blockchain, all that good stuff.
So we're talking about computers crunching all this data.
Exactly. Finding patterns, generating insights that would take humans forever.
It's like having a super-powered analyst on your team.
That's a great way to put it.
So instead of drowning in spreadsheets, insurers can actually use this data.
To make better decisions, yeah.
And not just about risk assessment, right?
Right. They can personalize policies, tailor coverage to specific needs,
Even encourage clients to adopt better practices.
incentivize positive change, absolutely.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a major shift in the industry.
We are. It's not just about how insurance is done,
It's about how we think about risk, about responsibility.
about our role in creating a sustainable future.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is. And the thing is,
Yeah.
this isn't just being driven by regulation.
No, it's bigger than that,
There's a real shift in mindset happening.
both within the industry and among consumers.
We all know we need to find a better way.
A more sustainable way.
And the CSRD is giving us a framework to do that.
It's a roadmap, a set of guidelines,
To create a world where sustainability is baked into everything we do.
where it's not just a nice to have, it's the foundation.
All right, I think we've given our listener a lot to ponder today.
I hope so.
The CSRD, the challenges, the opportunities, the potential.
It's a lot to take in.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with this. This isn't just about insurance or investments or regulations.
It's about something much bigger
It's about building a world that works for everyone.
for people and the planet.
A world where we can all thrive.
That's the goal. That's what we're all working towards.
So, to our listener, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep pushing for that better future.
We're all in this together.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to surface from this deep dive.
Back to the surface.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, stay curious.